What do you think that the passages that are blocked, the tunnels underground, what do you think we're going to find in there that's going to reveal what's going to be revealed about the truth?
Well, of NC2 specifically, and this is in the northwest corner in the back end kind of the plateau, we know from Andrew Collins had shared some TerraSAR-X is a company who did a satellite scan. They found these two large cave tunnels going straight from there to the Khafre Pyramid. This is why we revealed that film 2 days before the Khafre Project's press conference, because we knew they were focusing on it. And they were. I had been talking to them already. We'd already become friends before they had that press conference, which is why they let me be the first person to release those images to the world. But so we know that it's more than likely going straight to the Khafre Pyramid, which means he'd probably be hiding those giant tubes going down to these huge chambers underneath and access all the way down, to a kilometer or whatever this stuff is.
So you think he knows all this exists?
There has to be a very high chance of that when you consider that this dirt blocking up that tunnel is very clearly placed there from the opposite end. They threw it in from behind, which means they have to have another entrance into the behind part of it, which is very obvious anyway, because there's a building right on top of it. It used to be the old Harvard building there, but it's the Khufu restaurant now, but they don't put buildings right on the plateau unless they're blocking an important entrance into the underground. But if we know that they've been past the end part of that, that means they're more than likely already had access directly to the underneath of that pyramid.
So Hawass knows that that the Egyptians did not build this infrastructure, the pyramids, the tunnels, the obelisks, all of it. And he knows that it's from a civilization that existed prior to the start of the Younger Dryas.
I think there's a very good chance that he and or the authorities, let's say, have seen some of that with their own eyes, potentially at least, because these tunnels do really look like they go straight over there. And we pointed out this other door we think it connects to that has been very suspicious. As soon as Richard Gabriel, he shared some stuff about it, they set up a tent in front of this door and we're doing work in there. And it was like they're watching our movies. And it happened multiple times where we put out something about it and then they would set up this work tent for a few days and do something like they're sealing something up or something. But I'm not going to say I know he's seen these things, but yeah, I think it's pretty... I think he's aware that Egyptian civilization goes back way earlier than this dynastic period. I think he's aware of some very important things. I think he's very much aware that there's extremely advanced technologies down there. And that's, like I say, potentially there are reasons to protect certain things. Yeah, that was the whole idea of the mystery schools, was no one's allowed to know this stuff or see what's in this library or get to use this technology unless they had gone through a lifetime of probation periods and various degrees of initiation to ensure that they had the moral, ethical training and integrity as a human being to be worthy of knowing this stuff, which could be nuclear and as a metaphor, you could use it for creating a weapon or creating something beautiful. But if you're not worthy of having it, it needs to be protected, which is why you have all these curses and barriers, energies that are put in place and booby traps and, all that stuff is real. There's so many bodies down there. So many people have gone under Giza and never come back. And it's real. There's something worth putting many protections in place for, something worth building, monuments that you could never lose this site, markers of, something down there that's so important. It could potentially, be the core of a science developed by an entire thousands of years of golden age. When I think about the golden age or try to describe it, I say imagine a civilization of Nikola Tesla's or Da Vinci's, like someone with such a capacity for creativity, ingenuity, intelligence, and just can you imagine if you had a whole civilization of people with that capacity for knowledge and understanding what they could accomplish? I think that's very clearly evident in the pyramids themselves. Just seeing what's above ground, that's the Hall of Records in itself. I think we've got other copies underground in different ways, but we can reverse engineer the numbers and geometry and shape and size of the pyramids themselves. They encode knowledge of harmonics and different laws of physics, speed of light, things like that indicate an extremely advanced science. And because of the way it's set up and it's a calendar of precession, the cycle, 26,000 year cycle, which requires how many cycles of that do you have to go through in order to learn the exact length of it?
Let's pause on the speed of light for a second. And so that is encoded within the meters per second of the speed of light is encoded within the dimensions of the pyramid. Is that right? I've heard that said several times.
That's a good question. It's the most popular one is that people will say if you take the speed of light, I think it's meters per second. The one that's like 299 something.
Ryan, can you chat GPT this?
If you convert that number into a line of latitude, it will cross straight through the Great Pyramid. So that the pyramid's latitude, the apex, is down to so many decimals, not like all the way, but if you convert it exactly, it's within like a foot or two of the apex. And my friend Gary Osborne is who I've been talking about this a lot. But I actually
so what the latitude of the, are you saying the latitude of the
Great
Pyramid?
It's not exactly 30 degrees north.
Yeah.
If it was exactly 30 degrees north, by the way, it would put it exactly equidistant between the planet core and the North Pole. You'd have an equilateral triangle. This is like it's kind of like the flower of life. When you look from the side, you can see a circle divided into 6 creates these equilateral triangles. Now, that is the one that's most often cited, but people say this is a coincidence for a number of reasons, and I can argue that it's not, because I've found 3 other different ways in which the Great Pyramid also encodes the speed of light. And then speaking with Gary Osborne about this, he told me, Trevor, I've found 9 different encryptions of the speed of light in the Great Pyramid. I was like, you got me, Gary. But there are, in my book I've written about this, which is not published yet, but for instance, if you take the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid and circumscribe it in a circle, touching all 4 points, and then put a circle on the inside, touching the middle of each of the 4 sides, and then you subtract the inner circumference from the outer circumference, you get exactly the speed of light, but only if you do it in meters.
Yeah,
and so
were they
people
using
wonder
meters?
about this.
Like so this ancient civilization was using meters?
That's my research has I'd say claim, but I'd say it's proven. Yeah. I believe they use meters, feet, cubits, as well as seconds, minutes, hours, inches, and degrees, 360-degree circles. I believe they had all of those units, and you can find a geometric relationship, actually. Just using geometry, you can find the relationship of the cubit to the meter and the foot. And each one of those 3 units all ultimately relates to the size and shape of the earth. So there are all these different indications where, they tell you that they did use the meter. One of the simplest ones I can explain is their chariot wheels. They often had like 6 spokes, especially like Ramses you can see, or Tutankhamun you can see their chariot wheels. And those wheels have a diameter of exactly 1 meter, then the circumference is exactly 6 cubits. So that relationship, it's basically pi divided by 6 is the relationship of a meter to a cubit. So if they have pi, which we know they did, they put it everywhere. They put pi and phi and the Pythagorean theorem everywhere.
You said pi divided by...
or if you take 1 meter as the diameter, so 1 meter times pi divided by 6 would give you 1 cubit. So the circumference of a 1 meter diameter circle will have 6 cubits. So if you have 6 spokes on that wheel, it's 1 cubit between each of the spokes. And you could measure long distances that way. How many turns of the wheel? It would always be 6 cubits. So all of these are very sacred measures to them, because they, for instance, the base perimeter, like Graham Hancock has often talked about, is it's 1 to 43,200 of the Earth's equator, which it happens to be, if you double that, that's 86,400. That's the number of seconds in a day. So this is an indication that they were using seconds, just like the Sumerians, I think were, at least the Babylonians, but I think it's going back to the Sumerians, in the base 60 system, using minutes and seconds. So is that an indication that they did know how to use seconds? Well, meters go hand in hand with seconds, because if you make a pendulum that's exactly 1 meter long, it's going to swing back and forth 1 second per swing. That's why we have grandfather clocks are that tall, because they need a 1 meter pendulum. So this is the kind of thing the Egyptians loved, is like, how can we make units that are actually universally applicable, and we could determine a meter anywhere on Earth by, creating a pendulum and making sure it swings back and forth 43,200 times per day, So yeah, there's so many of these things, but yeah, Gary went on and on to share more and more of these codes of the speed of light, and some of these definitions of the name of the Great Pyramid as well, or the word pyramid itself, have to do with light and all other advanced physics concepts as well. Like Armando's been talking a lot about the number 137, but many of my other friends have as well. I'm talking with Gary Osborne, R.N. Voot, Jimmy Blanchett, Ed Nightingale is a really great one. A lot of people don't know, but a lot of these friends of mine are all finding these concepts and codes and templates of the geometry they're showing advanced physics. Alan Green, he's one of the best of the best. He found all these constants of the most important mathematical constants that we have ever learned in our entire history. They are all present in the Great Pyramid. I mean, like 10 of the most important ones.
So why do you think the tunnel goes all the way to the big void? Like how far does the person who discovered this, how far did he map the tunnel actually going? And then why do you think that it goes all the way to the Great Pyramid and then up to the big void?
We've kind of tried to ask him more about that, but I don't know. That's kind of part of the hazy part of the question. But one of the confirmations was that you have to the east of the Great Pyramid what's called the trial passages, which they say was like a practice run for creating the ascending and descending corridors within the pyramid. So like they were digging in.
The part that was foggy was that you're not sure on how far the tunnel goes. Is that right? I just want to understand.
We know he has never walked inside of it all the way to the pyramid, but this structure closer to the pyramid is one of the reasons that is one of the confirmations to me that it's very likely is going all the way, because these trial passages are like right on top of where it would be just before it gets into the pyramid. So as we were bringing this stuff to the public, we figured Bill, and I were saying, watch the trial passages. They're going to try and see if they can get into this tunnel through the trial passages. And Jeffrey Drum and Lex Levy, they recently showed a video of the trial passage gates. They'd been like blocked up with sand and covered over, and just in March they showed that they had become that's what it used to look like. That wooden ramp is now gone, and they cleared all the sand and garbage, and that door is now, it looks like they're going back in there and trying to potentially see if, I think they're seeing if they could get in through the trial passages to the tunnel we're talking about. But we don't know. We don't know 100% that it connects, and we don't know the internal structure of those chambers either. We're assuming that if the paper from 2022 is correct about those chambers inside, and if this tunnel really does go exactly that far, as our friend describes, then I don't know. I say we got a 90% chance to be honest, based on all I know about it, that it would connect. And that is a good chance.
That's very high.
As far as I'm concerned, it's like, if we can avoid drilling and we can dig in a spot where there's literally no risk at all. Because this is what happened to John when he and Shock tried to dig by the Sphinx. He said, no, we can't just let anyone dig by the Sphinx who has an idea. And he's right. You can't. You have to, you have to bring a real team of academics. You have to bring funding. You have to have the right equipment. And we believe in that. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. So, but you can't use that excuse. Where we want to dig, it's a pile of rubble. They demolished the whole village. They destroyed all these houses. And now it's just sitting there. And we want to dig in the trash. How could we hurt the pyramid? How could we hurt the Sphinx? There's no risk whatsoever. If we're bringing the budget, we're bringing the money to do it, how can they say no? What is their reason for not letting us try to dig in this pile of garbage, So you really have to ask at that point, what is the motive, Zahi? Why don't you want to meet with us? Why don't you want to talk with us? Why are you afraid that we could find something? Unless you do know that there's a tunnel there and you have been through it and you have been inside that chamber.
So what gives you optimism that he's going to say yes, given all those headwinds, and all those
we still have to ask,
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean,
no doubt, yeah.
we actually, it wasn't just the coffer project that just got kind of, rejected by him, but we also asked him while he was here on tour if he would, we sent an invitation for him to have dinner with Bill and talk with him about it. Like I said, he knew Bill, he clearly respected Bill. He offered him a job before. So Bill knew one of his tour managers that was helping, and he said, well, I could invite him, see if he wants to go to dinner. And we said, yeah, definitely. We'll fly Bill there from Poland just to make it happen if he's down. We want to talk to him. So, yeah, he sent our invitation through, but there was no response. And, it wasn't a rejection. He just didn't respond. So, I mean, maybe he was just busy, but it's like, this is pretty important. We've been coming to him with this for years. We've been showing him this evidence. And it's like, why would you not? What's the risk? Why not?
Right.
So, I don't know. We hope.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to try.